this dorm room that had a 180-degree view of the ocean. And I said, this is where I want to be. They said, you can't. A guy named Sam Schmidt, he wants this all to himself. And I said, let me introduce myself to him. They said, well, good luck. He's playing basketball down at the Firestone Fieldhouse. So I marched down to the Firestone Fieldhouse, walked down to the basketball court, said, who's Sam Schmidt? And he walked up and said, me? Why? And I said, I'm your new roommate. He said, no, I'm gonna have my own room. And I said, no. I'm from Nebraska. You're from Nebraska. We'll be best friends. It'll be awesome. And he said, I only have one question for you. Are you neat? And I said my first lie to Sam. I said, I am the neatest guy you ever met in your life. And he said, really? Okay, I suppose so. And everything I know about cleaning up a room, I learned from Sam Schmidt 38 years ago. He was part of this new fraternity. He was what do they call the inaugural class, the founding member of that. And he said, I want you to be part of that, but I was a freshman. I couldn't do that. And he said, you need to be then the first pledge class. So my second semester was the first pledge class of Lambda Omega Sigma. So I was Dude, the Lamb Dude. For Lambda Omega Sigma. Sam, that we're going to be hearing from today, he was I believe, the fourth president of Lambda Omega Sigma. I came in as the president the year after him. Let me tell you why you're here listening to this. Why are you going to listen to Sam Schmidt? Quickly, 5 things. Sam is a man of inspiration. Although Sam is a quadriplegic of the last 20 years, I remember every time that I hate working out, I remember Sam gets out of bed most days every single week and spends time on the treadmill, strapped in, doing his physical workout. And I thought, if Sam can do it, doggone it, I can too. Sam's also the first, maybe the only, I can't remember if he's still the only, but I know he was the first quadriplegic in the United States to get a driver's license. He actually has a driver's license, which is pretty darn cool. Incredible man of inspiration. Sam is also a man of perseverance. When he put himself into a wall in the Indy car trials, he just turned around within a very short period of time and just put himself on the other side of the same industry and became an Indy race car team owner. Since he couldn't drive it, he said, I'm going to stay in here. I'm going to be an owner. That is amazing. Also, a man of inspiration. His daughter was just married last week, and Sam met her on the dance floor on his feet to dance with his daughter. Incredible inspiration. Incredible perseverance. Sam is also a man of integrity. He's a man who is a man of his word, which is why so many partners of his throughout the years in business have trusted him, because that's the most important thing is business is who can you trust? And Sam's a man that you can trust. He's a man of influence. He has left his imprint globally. Many of the brands that Sam has been an owner in are global brands. In fact, if you have sunglasses, chances are good that you wear a pair of sunglasses on your head that Sam has been a part of that brand. And then finally, Sam is a man of service. And Lambda Omega Sigma, as we all know, is all about service. Doulos. The first time I ever heard that Greek word doulos, the last 3 letters of the Greek word doulos, L-O-S, Lambda Omega Sigma. So with that, let me introduce my good friend, Sam Schmidt.
Well, you read that speech I typed very well, Andy. Thank you. I should probably stop while I'm ahead after that, because Andy is a great friend, and frankly, one of the reasons I'm still here today, because of the community that I have around me and the support system that I have. Like you said, I guess I'll just give you a brief background. If I can. I started racing when I was 5 years old, motocross. My father raced off-road. We were in Southern California. It was the in thing to do, and I just kind of fell in love with competition and racing, and that just became my life. Like many people train for the Olympics or tennis or golf, we raced every weekend. It's a great family sport. And then my sort of hero of the time was a guy named Rick Mears. He was from Bakersfield, California. he raced off-road, eventually got tied up with Roger Penske, went to Indianapolis and won 4 Indy 500. So at a very young age, I just remember myself setting that focus and setting that major goal of getting to the Indy 500. But our last name wasn't Andretti or Unser. So I had to figure out a way to get there. And for me, that was kind of a business degree and trying to figure out how to raise money and connect the dots. So we went that whole process, fast forward, won a lot of championships, fulfilled my life dream of competing at Indy 500, 1997, 98, 99. Worked my tail off, and it all culminated in September of 1999 when I had moved to Las Vegas to make it my base for travel and many other reasons, which are obvious. But I sat on the pole position here, had a lot of friends here, won the race. Life's beautiful, wonderful wife of 7 years, 2.5-year-old, 6-month-old. Everything's great, and we're expected to be the champion in the 2000 season. We go to Orlando to kick off the season with a preseason test. Hit the wall doing 200 miles an hour, blow apart my C3, C4 vertebrae. I'm knocked out. I'm unconscious. I'm not breathing for, they said, well over 4.5 minutes. And so they resuscitate me. They airlift me to the trauma center. My father was there, calls my wife. She hops on a red eye. And the first thing the doctor says to her the next morning is, well, you know, he made it through the night, luckily. And if he makes it through the week, find him a nursing home, and he'll be on a ventilator the rest of his life. And we got to give him 3 to 5 to live. Well, what I didn't mention earlier is that when I was 11, my father was paralyzed racing. So we had a little practice with this, and needless to say, you know, the nut doesn't fall far from the tree. We dug in, and everybody got together and just started calling. And fortunately, well, they had told my dad, number one, that he would never walk or talk again. And through 2 years of intensive outpatient therapy, 5 days a week, he did walk and talk and became, you know, very successful in the automotive recycling business, and you know, is still around today. And so I had inspiration, I had experience. My family, you know, packed up. We found a guy in St. Louis, Dr. John McDonald, who had been working with Christopher Reeve for 5 years. And he was the only one that gave us any hope of not necessarily recovering from this, but making a life. You know, everybody else was like, he's on a ventilator. We'll teach you how to live with it, but we're not going to make any promises. And McDonald was the first one that said, hey, come here and we will work your tail off. And if by some chance we can't get you off the ventilator, then we'll deal with it. And so my parents, my wife, they liked that. I was completely out of it. Thank God for ICU drugs. But flew me to St. Louis. My parents packed up, got an apartment, moved to St. Louis, and we went through the whole process for 6 months. And, you know, came home from that. And, you know, it's a situation where it upends everybody's life, not just the person in the wheelchair. Everything around you, it's just turned upside down, you know. And so we started going through the process at home. Keep in mind that prior to this, for 7 years of our marriage, I had been gone probably 150 days a year, driving race cars and doing my business. And so now all of a sudden we're all thrown into multiple care attendants and physical therapy and all kinds of crazy stuff. And my wife finally said, like, look, this is great, but you got to find something to do because you're driving me nuts. So within a year of the accident, we started a race team completely naively, didn't know what the heck we were doing. And we went on, you know, and we persevered and figured out how to do that. And 10 years of running the Indy Light Series, we won 8 championships and 75 races and had a great deal of success. In 2011, we went to IndyCar, moved up to the IndyCar Championship, and have since gotten 2 pole positions at Indy 500. We just, won last Sunday night at Texas Motor Speedway. And we've got a couple great drivers now. We've got a relationship with McLaren Formula One and some great partners in Aero Electronics and Mission Foods. And, just looking forward to the month of May here. And so in parallel to that, I realized pretty quickly that I was unique. I had great insurance. I had a great family. I had a very deep faith that collaboratively allowed us to, overcome a lot of these challenges. And most of the people I was in the hospital with didn't. And so, we're like, we've got all the support from the motorsports community. It wasn't that I didn't need it, but other people needed it a lot more than me. So we decided to start at that time what was named the Sam Schmidt Paralysis Foundation. And that has evolved like anything over time to where it's now called Conquer Paralysis Now. In 20 years, we've invested about $18 million in lots of forms of medical research around the world. We focus primarily on translational human clinical trials, stuff that is not making, I'm really sick of watching rats walk. I really want to see humans walk. So what we invested in is things where we can see results. But even then, there's this community of at least 7.5 million people in the United States alone living with the disorder, dealing with bad insurance, et cetera. And so I think the last 2 years, we've really started to focus on intensive rehabilitation, sort of psychological rehabilitation. And we've created a model to start with in downtown Las Vegas called the Driven Neuro Recovery Network. And what that does is it's not just physical rehabilitation. It is one-on-one training, but we also have an open gym where people can work out with their caregivers or others. We have a psychologist on staff. We have a yoga studio. We have medicupping. We have acupuncture. We have all types of alternative forms of rehabilitation and take a very holistic approach to getting you back into life. Find out what your passion is and try to break down any barriers that may be out there to achieving that passion, whether it be wheelchairs, mobility, technology. Use whatever you can to have a reason to get up in the morning. And so that's been very, fulfilling and life-changing and motivational for me to see these, men and women pull themselves up from much more worse situations than I was ever in and make something of their lives. So I guess it's kind of transitioned from it all being about winning the Indy 500, which is still a passion of mine, to trying to assist others to achieve their potential in life, even if they have a disability. So I think that's kind of it. In the process of all this, I mean, I was joking about it last night with a friend that once I was paralyzed and unable to do anything with my arms and my legs, and I was literally forced to delegate to others, I actually became a much more productive member of society, in the race team, in the business world, and in anything else. I was able to, to accomplish a lot more. And the goals have changed a lot over the years. But like Andy mentioned, I think, the standards that we try to do things by haven't. My dad always said, anything, you must, your word is your bond, and you must complete anything you say you're going to do. You don't need a contract to do it, although now, unfortunately, you do in life. But just do what you say you're going to do, and do it with a level of integrity. And if you're striving for excellence, it's great to accomplish these goals and know that you did them the right way, and treating everybody properly. So, that's the story. I don't know, Jonathan, if you want to just do some kind of Q&A or have people ask questions. It's up to you.
Sure. And it's a very inspirational story. Thank you very much for the detail. Um, we did have some questions. People have been very interested in speaking with you, so I'll just go into some of them. You mentioned the training center. Somebody asked sort of how is the gym doing now, and someone else do you foresee opening more, or what do you see as the evolution of that project?
Well, even with the foundation, we treat it like, for profit in the sense that we want to constantly change. We want to be relevant. We want to make a difference. And so it was a bit of a beta test. There's facilities like these around the country. There's a huge problem in the society right now with insurance where, like, when I got hurt, I got 6 months in inpatient rehabilitation, relatively prepared to go home. My home was modified. I had a van. It was just okay. Now I would be lucky to get 60 days max. And so they're sending people home completely unprepared, without completing the rehabilitation and without having anything ready. And the bottom line is it's an 85% divorce rate. Families fall apart. And so what Driven does is try to bridge that gap. And we went into downtown Las Vegas, got 8,000 feet, said we're going to, take the best information we have from around the country and make something. And fortunately or unfortunately, be careful what you wish for. It's booming. And so now, after 2 years, we just went before the city council. They're going to give us 4.5 acres in downtown Vegas in a redevelopment zone to build a 50,000 square foot Driven. And so that's going to be kind of the mega template. And the hopes there are that we can continue what we're doing now, but also have other things like Olympic level wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, those kinds of things, activities. Also be a hub for anytime you do a clinical trial, like a stem cell trial or something of that nature, you're going to have continuous rehabilitation required in a strict protocol for 6 months afterwards. So anybody in the country that does that, we can be their hub for rehabilitation, and numerous other opportunities are available if you have that size of facility. In parallel, we'd love to partner with some groups around the country in major metropolitan areas to have kind of 15,000 square foot Drivens, because I think the good news is, like with raising money for medical research, it's like a black hole. You just don't know if you're going to have success. With Driven, we have success. It's right in front of us. We can show it every day in physical format, and I think that makes it easier to raise funding. The key to a Driven facility, though, is that you have to be able to take everybody that needs it, regardless of their ability to pay. And so you need to fundraise for that, because the majority of the people that need it the worst can't afford it. So we got to fill that gap somehow. So we've been able to do it here locally, and I think we can do it on a national basis. So we are restructuring, reorganizing, and hoping to, number one, launch construction on the one here, but also in parallel try to establish some partnerships around the country.
Excellent. So another question, and this may become particularly relevant. One of our brothers mentions that he is a recent L1 incomplete paraplegic. And Andy asks, how would you, post-accident, how would you articulate the stages of your recovery?
Yeah, I mean, we do incompletes are, it sucks, but at the same time, you're lucky because there are abilities to recover, and we've dealt with incompletes. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you can get a lot more recovery beyond your level of injury. And I'm a firm believer in the one-on-one and the intensive rehabilitation, like we do at Driven. There are some other ones around the country, but you kind of, there's a period of anywhere from about 12 to 24 months where you can rapidly and quickly regain a lot of your, abilities with an incomplete injury. So we see it day in and day out, really, where there's a huge acceleration initially, and then it will, that improvement will taper off. But there are always ongoing, sort of incremental improvements, and then you've got to stay on top of it with a maintenance routine, much like I do. I still work out every day for 2 hours, 5 days a week. So there's a maintenance routine to, once you get to a certain level, even maintain that, or else you can kind of slide back.
Sure. Different. I was wondering earlier, to shift gears a little bit. So are you in Indy right now, getting ready for the season? Are you?
Nope, still in Las Vegas, basically dialing for dollars, managing our partnerships, trying to get everything set up for Indy. And I'll go on the 12th next Wednesday. I'll fly back there, and then I'm there through the 1st of June for 3 weeks. Just the Grand Prix runs on the road course at Indy on the 14th and 15th, and then we start practice for a week and then qualify. It's a 2-week process for the Indy 500. So I'll be there for 3 weeks.
Excellent. Do you have how to retool this slightly? A favorite car, or what are some? How would you say you're retooling the equipment for this season, or changing your car, or do you? I don't know.
You talking about the race car or the Corvette?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we added aero screens this year, which have already proved themselves to be very safe for the drivers. We run the number 5, number 7. We're adding the number 86 for the Indy 500 with Juan Pablo Montoya. So we're very, obviously we've been running in the top 5 for the first 2 races this year. So very positive, and feel like we get good momentum going into the month of May. So, optimistic. The Indy 500 has a history of sort of selecting its winners and crushing the hearts of many, but that's what makes it so special, if you can win.
I personally had an interesting experience recently. I'm a big pop art guy, so I went to go see the Ratfink custom car exhibit up at the Corvette Museum. And so I turned a corner, and what did I see but the SAM semi-autonomous motor car? Would you indulge me and tell people a little bit about what designing that vehicle or refining it has been like, and maybe some steps for that with aero? Or
well, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and for years we've been visiting Craig Hospital in Denver as a spinal cord injury famous hospital, or proper place to go. And technology company in Denver decided they were going to sort of display their abilities to solve problems by designing a car for a guy to drive that had no arms and legs. And so they called Craig and said, do you know who might be a candidate to be a driver? And my friends there said, yeah, we got the guy. Used to be a race car driver. And keep in mind, they had already identified the acronym Semi-Autonomous Mobility, or SAM, for this project before they ever called Craig. And then Craig said, yeah, we got this guy, Sam Schmidt. And they all fell out of their chair, So that was 7 years ago. We began working together, and it's an amazing company. Engineers, components, their niche is basically taking existing components and reconfiguring them in ways that haven't been used before to get to the end result a lot quicker than inventing it from scratch. And so we literally were in a simulator 6 months after the initial conversation, and I was in a car at Indy going 100 9 months later. And so, from that point, I mean, it's just been a crazy ride. It's a combination of myself and 4 or 5 engineers, and we test and we come up with new crazy stuff, and we just keep advancing. So we've advanced from a Stingray to a Z06 to now a C8. and I have gone 150, and then in January I just went over 200 in the Z06. We've raced up Pikes Peak. I've got my driver's license, like you said, and we're just going to continue to do amazing things. And then subsequently, there are the ones that I challenged with the exoskeleton project, because there's paraplegic exoskeleton for lower level injuries out there, but there'd never been one created for my level of injury, because I don't have any use of my arms or legs or chest. And so they did. In about a year, they created it, and we used it at the wedding 2 weeks ago. So it's an amazing company with incredible values and its desire to help people with disabilities. And so it's just been an honor working with them, and it's been a team effort. And can't wait for the future and just what they dream up next, because it's been good.
That's wonderful. And I read an interview from, I want to say 2003 or 4, where you said that you hope to dance with your daughter at her wedding, and you had some time, but you had to stay on the ball to make that happen. That deeply makes me happy that you were able to accomplish that. Bruce wants to know your Pikes Peak driving story. So that might be what you just alluded to there, but.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it's one of those things when you sit around and say, hey, why don't we do this? And we were goofballing or brainstorming, and somebody said, have you ever ran Pikes Peak? And I said, I always wanted to. It's almost up to its 100th anniversary of that race. It's 156 turns, it's 12 miles, up a peak, 13,000 feet. A lot of people died up there. It's a crazy event, and I kind of tongue-in-cheek said, yeah, that sounds great, let's do it. Thinking in the back of my head, there's no way in hell we're going to be able to accomplish this, right? But they went to work, and they figured it out. And my pilot, when I drive the car, if you turn your head, the car turns. So I need somebody with me to kind of tell me what's coming up. And we got Robbie Unser, who has won the race 9 times, and he was stupid enough to ride up with me and give me the guidance that it took to do it, because otherwise it would have been a suicide mission. But we did it, and we did it in 15 minutes, which was the fastest ever is about 9, but out of 75 vehicles, I think we were faster than 25. So it's pretty embarrassing for them, but it was a lot of fun, and I won't do it again though. I don't want to press my luck too much.
Sure. Now, you mentioned partners several times. Someone asks, Jim Harper, Epsilon Omega asks, have you ever worked with Good Shepherd Rehab in Allentown, PA?
No, I haven't. That's a new one.
All right. Andy asks, best college story you'd like to share with our brothers here?
I have to be careful because my son is still in college, and I don't want to give him any ideas, but man, so many. One that got brought up recently amongst our tight group of friends is when somebody, who I won't name, decided it'd be a great idea to bring a concert to Pepperdine, and to not only benefit the students, but the greater community, and expose Pepperdine to some things that hadn't been done before. And so I know I had just returned from Europe and going to school over there, and there was a great group named the Thompson Twins, who was kind of prolific here in 1983, 84, and I was the one that went to that time student body president named Jeff Weiler and said, hey man, this would be great, but we need your help to get the university on board and get the facilities and coordinate everything. And I think the capacity of the Firestone Fieldhouse was about 6,500. And so we got everything done. First time ever promoting a concert or anything like that, but got the Thompson twins secured, you know, the whole deal. And man, luckily this thing blew up. We closed the doors at about 10,000 people. And I don't think the fire marshals were pleased with us. Chet Byler nearly got impeached over the whole deal. And it was quite stressful at the time, but we laugh about it now. So there's probably a dozen of those stories of craziness and madness and going overboard. Andy's laughing back there.
Yeah, I'm going to break in here with one of my favorite Sam Schmidt stories. Can I do that, Jonathan?
No, I don't think so, Jonathan. I don't think that's
you're gonna. So driving with Sam is quite an experience. I almost lost my lunch so many times, and we would come in and out of Malibu Canyon, and he had his little Fiero. And his goal, whenever we would come through, having spent the weekend at his house in Silmar, we'd come through and it'd be 1-2 o'clock in the morning. We're trying to get back. And as soon as we got off the freeway, the 101 to hit the Malibu Canyon, there was just a twinkle in Sam's eye that just said, "Oh crap, I'm in trouble." And he would lay his foot down, and it was all about, can I beat my time through Malibu Canyon? And all I could do was just put my seat back because I couldn't watch what was going on. But one time, as I'm putting my seat back, we just get off the freeway. We're passing I think it was the Denny's, and there is the police car. And we're going past this police car at 100 miles an hour. And Sam looks back, sees him pulled out, sees him turn the lights on. And I'm like, oh, we're done. We're pulled over. And Sam goes, not yet. And he presses it down. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And he's like, I think I can beat him. We get through, and I remember the time was it was usually sometime between like 15, 17 minutes to get through Malibu Canyon. And we get through the other side, and he dives into the entrance of Pepperdine, turns the lights on, and thinking, yep, they're not coming. And he got away with it. I thought, this guy, Sam Schmidt, is made of something I have never seen before in my life. Another time coming through Malibu Canyon, I remember it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I know I'm exhausted. I know Sam's exhausted. And he has that same twinkle in his eye. We're coming through Malibu Canyon, and he's racing. And I'm like, I just put my seat back and think, just please don't crash. Just please don't crash. And I'm looking up, through the window, not looking through the windshield because my seat's back. And I see that we're getting like to the place where we can turn into the college campus. And as soon as we turn on the college campus, I feel this sigh of relief. We've made it, right? Sam didn't kill us again. And within 10 seconds, I feel the bump crash. I'm like, what the heck just happened? After we got on campus, Sam decided then is a good time to fall asleep and hit a wall and took out the rim. So those are my favorite Sam stories. You want to comment on that, Sam?
Take the fifth.
Fair enough.
I'm reminded of one of my chapter brothers, Ale Bajarski, who was the same kind of thing. When you drove with Ale, you just sat back and trusted him to drive, and you were gone. And you would be the first one wherever you were going. Now here, this one's interesting because as we've discussed a couple of times, the through line from Lambda Omega Sigma through Lambda Sigma is this excellent tradition of service. And George Rauman asks, which philanthropic efforts at SIU Pepperdine may have influenced or guided the work you do today, or what lessons learned then have sort of been constantly applicable?
That's a great one. I mean, I think that's what I like the most, because when I went on the campus first time, there was new student orientation and everybody throws at a table, and there was probably a half a dozen at this time, non-national fraternities, more like clubs. We didn't have a house or anything like that. And, you know, you kind of go down the list and none of them were attractive whatsoever. And then this group, like Andy said, I was a sophomore. Everybody else was upperclassmen, but they started to form the bylaws and the charters and meet and try and figure out how could they launch this different type of fraternity. And so, like Andy said, the last three letters, LOS, Lambda, Sigma, was all about service. And so that was the forefront. We regularly did mission trips to Mexico and built buildings and worked in orphanages, and we did a lot of there was, just like now, there was a lot of natural disasters going on. We were constantly working sandbag duty on the beaches in Malibu, you know, protecting these multi-billion-dollar homes. But just, we were on call within the community at any time to do with anything. And so I think, to answer your question, there was just really good in the sense of that there are always people that are less fortunate out there, and no matter what your passion is, or you know, anything from canine assisted dogs to helping the homeless to you know, adoption. I mean, there's lots of good organizations out there, and I think we've just always, and subsequently in any companies we've been involved in, we have a mission statement, and we always encourage employees to serve other organizations in the community. And I think that's just an ongoing effect of the fraternity and the impact it had. Way deeper than, I mean, so much was gained from the fraternity, everything from establishing it and going through the process and being president and all of these things that you know, you can make mistakes on, and it doesn't hurt anything, or and we had a great time, but it was unique because we did it in a clean, you know, a clean environment, so to speak, and we didn't allow alcohol in any of our events, and it was obviously very unique for that time and for now to do it that way. But all that to say, there's I can look back now and see a lot of things that were established during that time period.
Excellent. Now, one question we like to ask, and I'll actually ask each of you in turn, is we find that the most powerful part of Psi Upsilon are our brothers and our networks and the people that we run into, often whom we don't know are Psi U until later in the evolution of our relationships and friendships and whatnot. Have there been any times professionally when you've run into someone and found out that they were a Psi U or a LOS later?
I don't know that it's happened, but I don't know that it's not because of the relationship with Pepperdine and you know, that ongoing situation. And again, it's a fairly small university, and you know, we're talking not hundreds of years of establishment, so the numbers of alumni aren't that great. But as I think you know, they unilaterally decided 15 years ago to start holding an annual fundraiser on behalf of our foundation, which was amazing. And they approached us and said, "Can we do this?" I said, "Absolutely." That's called Psi You Think You Could Dance. And I went to the first event, and it was held out in the quad, and it raised $1,500, and it was great. And that has continued to escalate to where that is a major annual event on campus. And I think last year it was $20,000. So they have continued to outdo the previous year and challenge each other to do that. And again, it's just an amazing example of what, you know, what can happen, even, you know, with young kids in college. And so as a result of that, there's been continuing contact with a lot of these members, and you know, trying to help them with their future goals and connections.
Excellent. Now, since you mentioned Cy, you think you can dance, I'm going to ask you the same question in just a second, Adam. But we do have some of the undergrads here. I could actually ask one of them to speak briefly about what they're doing, because I believe that is tomorrow, the virtual event. Might be. So perhaps we'll do that in a second after we hear from Adam. Have you run into anybody professionally that's a Psi Upsilon brother that you know of?
I think it's for Andy, right?
That was absolutely for Andy. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Adam's question from Adam right out underneath. Sorry, Andy. Any younger Lambda Sigma or Psi Upsilon brothers you've run into?
Andy is muted.
Oh. He may have stepped away for just a sec.
Oh, sorry. You're asking me?
Yes, I was. I'm sorry.
No, I haven't run into, but that's usually not a question that you ask in the professional world. But I would say, like this guy over my shoulder right here, who was Bruce Young. I have many brothers like that have just been lifelong friends. I mean, so when you think about these relationships that you're building in college, the short answer is yes. Many of these relationships last with you for the rest of your life. So that foundation that we're laying at SciU is something that really does have a lifelong impact.
One of the things that I often encourage, particularly our undergraduate brothers, as they are looking for new positions or moving about quite a bit, if you search LinkedIn for whatever your subject matter interest is and add Psi Upsilon, you can find brothers in all walks of life, all areas of expertise. And that, as director of member engagement, is one of the things I am also always happy to field questions from any of our brothers that said, you know anybody I'm moving to Seattle. Do we have any, you know anybody in Seattle? I'm happy to make those connections, as most of our executive council and board are.
Super.
Oh, and Caden says, Cy, you think you can dance tomorrow virtual 8 p.m. and he gives the Zoom code over in the chat.
Yeah, if you could redistribute that'd be great.
Sure. Actually, why don't I allow Caden to talk for just a minute, and he can tell us about it, perhaps. Let's see if this works as expected.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you, Caden. Would you like to tell everybody briefly about what y'all are getting up to?
Absolutely. First of all, Sam, it's great to see you again. Yeah, I haven't talked to you since last time we did it, I think my freshman year, sophomore year, but we're very excited to bring Cy You Think You Can Dance back. It's virtual this year, obviously, because of COVID. But yeah, we've been planning it for a few months now. It's pretty much the sororities and fraternities that are participating. They're putting a little 1-minute video clip together of them doing some sort of music video-esque type video, where they dance to music and everything's choreographed. And so we're just trying to get everyone together for the viewing of that tomorrow. And the new guy, Steven, he's letting us use the Zoom. So it'll be in his Zoom. I put the code in the chat just a minute ago. But yeah, we are very excited to hold that event tomorrow, even though COVID has shut down everything personally.
Outstanding. Thank you very much, Caden.
Of course.
And Sam, I believe your virtual gala is not too far distant. Am I right on that?
Yeah. You can go to conquerparalysis.org. And it's May 27th, which is the Thursday night before the Indy 500. We're gonna have a great list of entertainers and kind of marquee speakers. It only takes about an hour, but it's a great thing. We have incredible auction items, and the virtual format is fantastic because you can watch it anywhere. So you just go to the website, the link's there. You can watch it for free.
There you go. And I dropped that that link in the chat as well for all attendees. One thing I love is the ability to footnote as you're speaking and just send people what directions to what you're talking about. Well, as I want to be respectful of your time, we're coming up on the hour. So if it's all right, I will drop to our show notes and do upcoming events real quick, and then pop back into the room if you'd like to speak with anybody personally. We can do that, and I can allow them to talk so you can converse back and forth. Okay. This is we're wrapping up another edition of the virtual speaker series. Suggested next steps: register for upcoming ones. We have about one a month. All events for alumni and undergrads that ask to be are registered up on sciu.org on the calendars there. I mentioned LinkedIn before. There is a Psi Upsilon professional network on LinkedIn. All undergraduates listening, that's an excellent place to connect and look to see what some of our older brothers are up to. And if you are in a position to post a job or to post a internship, that is an excellent place to do so to benefit our younger members. And if you have any professional development you'd like to share, some achievement or milestone you've reached that you want to put forth, that we're getting people in the habit of doing that. So it's a fun place to read. The foundation has a scholarship program. We're having an update around that next week on March 12th. One of the things that we've premiered in the last year have been what we sort of call SciU experiences, which are one of them is Donellan Family Virtual Wine Tasting. Cushing Donellan Wines in California is owned by SciU, and so you can order. He puts up a quarterly special. You can order some wines and talk about them with the vintner. And then another California guy, Lance Miller from the Epsilon Nu 80, is giving our next speaker series will be team building and public speaking. Lance Miller is a one-time public speaking world champion from the Toastmasters and is an executive coach. So that should be a very good, enthralling speaker series, as this one was. And then, of course, our convention is coming up. 177th convention, July 23rd through 26th in Madison, Wisconsin. That will be an in-person event. And in many cases, it'll be the first time some of our brothers have been back together in a year and a half. So that is exciting. Again, thank you, everyone that donates as a member of our Founders Society or anything of the sort. For supporting the foundation and fraternity programs, operations, outreach efforts like this. All right. With that, I want to absolutely, but before we do anything more casual, I'd like to thank you very much for speaking to us this evening. It's been just outstanding and inspirational and neat. And I'd like to thank you, Andy, as well for such a great and energetic intro.
Thanks for including me, Jonathan. It was a pleasure.
So thank you. Anybody's near an IndyCar event later this year, want to stop by and say, well, that'd be great.
Excellent. Jim Plattner says, thank you very much, Sam. Tom Fox, the same. Appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story.